Good day, and thanks for checking out the new Sportsline Podcast here on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Like guest Steve Foxcroft said earlier this week, if you can make it in Hamilton, Halton, and Niagara, well, you can make it anywhere. And it's those teams, athletes, executives, and broadcasters who will be shining in the spotlight on the Sportsline Podcast. Well, a bio of this individual reads an influential, accomplished competitor driven by the game and the business of sports. Now, I'm sure during his days of playing football at Western Washington University, he would have never forecasted that Southern Ontario would one day be his home. He's a multiple Grey Cup champion, a Canadian Football Hall of Famer, a CFL Coach of the Year, and even one time a TV analyst. Orlondo Steinauer, always pleased to have you, and even more pleased to have you on the Sportsline Podcast, partner.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me, man. This brings us back to many years ago when we did a little bit of work on a different station. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, it's great to have you here. I guess I have to catch up with you. I mean, the last time we chatted was, I guess, kind of over the phone on radio after a playoff loss, and those can never be very, very easy, especially when I'm the first guy you're talking to 5 minutes after the final whistle. I mean, now that that's come around and the season is sort of getting ramped up a little bit, how have you been?
Yeah, well, I've been well. It's been different. We've had some shakeups, but all those things are the titles, Bubs. But at the end of the day, this is a people business. I'm a person, you're a person, and there's things that happen outside the show. There's things that happen outside football. So that's why I give the general overall statement. Things have been real well.
And I guess you've had some opportunities to get away from Tim Hortons Field. Maybe your family don't like you being at home as much as you've been, maybe?
Yeah.
What's that like?
Well, I get to see the neighbors a little bit and reintroduce myself. I'm usually gone, and that's what the coaching realm just requires. So it is nice to be around the family, doing odds and ends of things, and being a dad, being a husband, doing all the fun things. So I'm enjoying it, but at the same time, it never really stops. The season ends. Obviously, you don't ever want to get used to losing. It was a disappointment there at the end, but there's always one champion. And after that, the work really begins. You got to formulate, you got to find a staff, you got to get personnel people back on board, therapy department, all types of things. So it really doesn't stop in December. And then, of course, you lead right into the league meetings in January. And then from there, you got free agency around the corner.
When you were coaching, how many hours a day were you in the facility?
It varied. I can say that there probably wasn't a day that it was anything under 12. That's just a standard thing. But I think it varies. It varies. Sometimes there's short weeks, is why I say there's short weeks. You might play 2 games in 6 days. You may actually have bye weeks, so you can spread your work out a little bit. If it's a regular 7-day work week, meaning 7 days between games, then that also requires something. And then sometimes you're hot, then things are rolling, and then sometimes you're not. And so you do whatever the job requires.
I always think of the likes of a Dick Vermeil, Hall of Fame coach, Super Bowl champion, and he had to leave the game for a little bit because he said he was spending up to 20 hours a day at the facility. It can get stressful, can't it?
Absolutely. And I think as I've climbed up, I saw that, and you do take examples of that. And I love spending time with lifers in the business and just saying, what is it that you might change? And those types of things. And you listen to those. So you have to formulate your own, because it's not a cookie cutter model. One thing doesn't work as well at a different place that it might have worked for somebody else, but you still gather the information and those data points, if you will. And so I really put an emphasis on the work-life balance. And it's never going to be completely balanced, but it is, you have to create an environment that people want to belong and feel comfortable heading to a doctor's appointment, saying I'm having a you-know-what kind of day, and know that there's grace in that. There also is accountability. But at the same time, my goal was always to create an environment that people wanted to be. I didn't want people pulling in a parking spot, taking a deep breath, saying, how the heck am I going to get through this day? There's no way they're going to understand. Because life happens. And so, there's a job to do. And it kind of leads to, what I did as I took over is I took everybody's title off the door. And it just says their name, not what they do. And not what, we all know that we're held accountable to a job and a description but at the end of the day, we're people.
Right.
And so I really tried to uphold that in the good times and in the times that were deemed by others maybe as not so good.
Before we get to what I will consider your new appointment, when you have this time at home, do you get to get back? Do you get to watch some NFL football? Like, what'd you think of that Bills and Kansas City game?
I think I do. I have watched probably a couple more games than I normally would. I always love watching playoff football, regardless. But I'm kind of a PVR guy now. Like I record it.
How can you PVR sports?
Because I like to start like 45 minutes late, turn off my phone, don't do anything, and zip through those commercials and zip through halftime and just watch ball. And that's just kind of the way it is. And that way it still affords me time to do the things that I have to do at home as a family person, and then also what the job requires.
In that Bills game, Tyler Bass misses that, 41-yard field goal wasn't for the win, but it would have put them in a tie situation to maybe go into overtime.
Yeah.
You've been a player and probably seen kickers miss, players or kickers win games.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? And how, as a coach, do you approach a player like that? Because there's a belief that the kicker is the kicker. They're by themselves. Their only friend is the punter, right? They just don't practice with the rest of the guys.
Maybe the holder.
Like, how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that individual, especially in a situation where there is so much pressure on that one player and you're so used to them coming through, and in the one opportunity, they don't come through?
It's a fair question. I think it's different for each player. And I think it's hopefully the relationship that you've built up to that point, and you respect the way he would prepare for those kicks. Some kick in nets, some people, I played with Noel Prefontaine was the guy that I was around the most. And I looked at him as just an athlete that could kick. He could do anything. He could throw the ball. He could run routes. He'd try to knock your head off. He could kick off. He could punt. He was an athlete. And so he would just be like, if you will, one of the guys. And you could joke around with him. And then there's other ones. I've played with a kicker who I'll leave unmentioned that walked around practice with earplugs in and just had to be locked in. There's two different extremes. And so in that moment, I always looked at it as this way, Bubs, as a coach, is the player / person, is this person prepared for the moment? That's all you can do as a coach. And if you can't look yourself in the eye and your team and the organization and say that you have prepared this person for an opportunity like this, then you got to reevaluate a little bit. That's just my opinion.
Sure.
The CFL is unique because there are no kicking coaches per se. There's not that specialist, right? And so a lot of these players get better on their own, and you kind of learn what they've adapted, what they like, and you support them in that. And then, of course, there's references that you can lean on. With that being said, there's so much mental that goes into it. Nobody goes out there trying to mess up.
No.
They just don't. And this goes for every position. When it comes to kicking, we try to do noisy field goals after practice. We circle people around. We say if you make it, the team doesn't have to run, and you simulate things. And as fun as that may sound, there's only so much you can do to prepare. You can't, we put crowd noise cranked up. We'll do all types of things, but we offer them sports psychologists or mental performance coaches. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. The person has to go out and perform. Right. So when you say, what do you do as a coach? You trust that the preparation has been enough to give this person the comfort to go out there and think of it as any other kick and go through. When you add elements of wind and cold and moving on into playoffs and people's livelihoods, some people are able to handle that a lot better than others.
70,000 people watching you.
Oh, yeah, and that. So there's a lot that goes into it, but at the end of the day, it's about support and not making it bigger than it is.
Let's play a quick little game here, and we'll call it the picture association feeling game, and tell me what you feel. Let's bring up a picture here I want you to tell me when you look at that guy, what do you think of? What was that guy going? What was going on in his head back then?
I can remember that. That was Brian Timmons Field, practice field. I just think of my teammates. I think of Ron Lancaster. I think of I'm laughing because of the Adidas patch. I probably thought I was a little bit big time there.
I'm laughing at the hairdo.
Oh yeah, I had some good hair now.
It's fly, very fly.
Yeah, I had some good hair. That was a prime. That was a. I remember I think of challenge. I know I'm trying to make it quick here. I think of a challenge because I was an all-pro corner that got moved to halfback, and I think that was a 1998 possible halfback picture where I was trying to be the best at a new position. I relish those moments. It's too bad it's a young man's game because I still would probably try to run down there.
Would you?
I think so. Here's the thing. I don't miss the training, though.
No one does.
I don't miss the training, but at game day, man, I don't know if that ever leaves, right? But I do relish and really love passing on what was passed to me and things that I inherited along the way. And when that light bulb goes off for somebody else, that's my game day.
Those 98 and 99 teams, I mean, the Ticats are a big deal now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, when you guys won in 99, like, there was a massive parade here in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy. Like, Hitchcock, Morielli, Flutie, McManus, so many personalities on that team.
Yes.
And you put it all together.
You put it together. And, wow, when you think of that, I still have a picture in my desk at home. I can tell you who was in my car. Calvin Tiggle and Frank West. And that's how much of a memory it stays in. And I could remember that was a party. That was a morning party. That felt great. And it's going to happen again. I know there's so much that goes into it, from Mike McCarthy assembling it, Ron Lancaster, Don Sutherland, just the buy-in and the willingness to push each other. So every now and again, you get a group of people that you can actually hold accountable internally. We could do an hour show. You have to invite me back for more shows, right? But what I mean by that is there's times when there's a special thing where discipline and organization doesn't always have to come from the top, that it happens from the inside out. And that's how it happened. By the time Lancaster wanted to talk about something or we got to tighten this up, it's already handled. It's already handled. And yeah, that doesn't mean that it wasn't always rosy, but when it came to ball and hanging out and just doing things that came natural, man, it was second to none.
Other than the Rothman's Blue cigarettes, which I know you were not a part of.
No.
What did Ron Lancaster mean to you in terms of his head coaching, and maybe did he rub off on you a little bit? He was a different cat, but he was a special cat.
Boy, he was. And I just remember his right-hand guy. Both of them rest well. And Ron Lancaster and his right-hand guy, Bernie Custis. And I just remember Bernie always sitting there, and Lancaster. The things that I learned from him were things that are important. He handled. He didn't delegate. So, for example, cutting a player, releasing a player, waiving a player, whatever little adjective you want to add onto that, he did it. Breakfast check. He didn't send an intern or anybody. He did it. Running a scout team. He held the cards. Conditioning. He ran it. So that I learned. But he's a guy that we could be talking like this, and then I'm feeling good about life, and then the next morning, right by me. And I'm like, what could I have done in those last 12 hours to elicit that? And it wasn't anything personal. It's who he was. And then he'd catch you off guard. I was the only guy leading the stretch line. And he's like, hey, I go, yeah, what's up? He goes, this is when he came over from Edmonton. It doesn't take you long to dislike those people down the QEW, does it, when you're here? I said, nah, coach, it doesn't at all. So he had a little sense of humor that he liked to show out to certain people. But I guess the little general was for a reason. I could go on and happy to come on and talk stories sometime with everybody. But I learned a whole bunch. Some of stuff I didn't take with me. But a lot of it I did. It's always stuck in the back of my mind. And I really respected how, I think his first 2 years of coaching, I want to say he was 2 and something. in Sask. And then he had some decent times in Edmonton, and then he came here and overhauled the offense. Had no ego, kept a lot of the defense intact. Brought Sudsy back. Credit to Sudsy for coming to a place that booted him out. And it didn't matter. It was about winning. And what can we get accomplished? I respect that about Ron.
Let's see another picture here, and you tell me again what it means to you.
Okay. Oh, there she is. Champion. Player of the Year. 23 school records. I don't know how many double-doubles she had. That's my wife, Gina, there. What an impressive thing. I think, as you can tell, there's only one couple of strings left to be cut, and that's for the head coach. Mm-hmm. Yeah, super proud of her and her journey. She went on to play in Australia professionally before, I think it was the WBL and before the WNBA, and did an outstanding job there. So
she averaged 18 points and 13 boards a game in those days.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And as you said, set double-digit school records.
Yeah,
Was she a better athlete than you?
Stop it. Come on.
I'm just asking.
She might be. Well, it depends who you're asking. Well, you got me on cable.
Athlete of the decade.
Yeah, I think the AD had a crush on her or something. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I made it all decade team too. No, she's a good athlete. She ran track. She high jumped. She played volleyball. She could do a lot of things. She really turned into an outstanding basketball player. So that's what that reminds me of. She put in a lot of hard work. That was the result of a lot of hard work. That's what that picture says to me.
Was this like a high school or a college sweetheart kind of thing? Is that how?
College. I met her my sophomore year.
Okay.
Of let's see, university, college. I'm getting the terms back and forth. Yeah.
Next picture, please.
Okay. This is fun. Oh. Yeah. Oh. Whoa.
You're the only guy.
Yeah, everybody's going to see my other side. That gets emotional. That's why I breathe right there. That's the team. That's the family. That's what I've been blessed with. That I was able to be inducted because of them and the support. So that's packed with a lot. That's probably a half-hour show. So that's a special time. I looked at that. That's reflection of just, proud moment for them and a proud moment for me, my grandparents, everybody along the journey that helped me get there. When you start playing sports, you love the game. And, when I, went to the Detroit Lions and got released and then ended up in Ottawa when they were the Rough Riders, still found that a little odd that there was only 9 teams and 2 teams had the same name. But that's another topic. And then all of a sudden, you're pretty good at it. You're just trying to be the best you can be. Then you say, well, wait a minute. How can I help somebody else be the best they can be? Wait a minute, this is kind of fun. Let's try to get our name etched in history. And then all of a sudden, it's over. And then you have to have people reflect and say, now, wait a minute. I think you're one of the best to ever do this. As you can tell, it's hard to come up with the words. It means a lot. There's a lot of people that should be proud. I'm just happy that I was able to make a lot of people proud, take the talents that I was given, harness it, and, try to become the best version that I could be, and not just as a player, but as a person.
2 things that come when I see that family picture of you, and of course that was you being inducted into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. One, at least from what I read, was it Gina that told you to coach?
Yes. So, yeah. After the playing career, I said, you know what? I don't want to be year to year anymore. Personally, I was drained. I was burnt out on just providing for the family, not knowing if I was going to be over here, over there, this province, moving schools. And so I said, you know what? Let me take a year and see. And, I got the chance to do TV and radio, and I really enjoyed it, and
you were good.
I appreciate it. And the funny thing I can remember is, credit to Ivanka and even Brad and all those guys and just the opportunity. And I remember just
Sportsnet folks. That's my old stomping ground.
Yeah,
right?
and Martine and all these people are just great to me. And I just went in there as a rookie. And I remember when it wasn't a live hit, I remember doing a hit and saying, hey, I want to watch it. And they just look at me. And I'd say, no, this is like tape to me. I want to watch tape. I want to be better. I want to be like you guys. Like, I'm a rookie. I'm not, I got an opportunity. And I thought, you know what, let me jump into this and see what I could do. Radio was natural for me because I was always there, but TV's different. It's harder to stare down the barrel. Whichever one. There it is. There's a red light. I'm looking for the red light. And that takes practice and time and making it feel natural. But I was really starting to get into it, and then I got renewed, and they wanted to know. And then Jim Barker called and said, "Hey, would you like to interview to be the DB job?" And I thought, sure. And so, if I was going to be able to call highlights or not, I didn't know. So I was actually signed a contract with a company, Cintas, C-I-N-T-A-S, and accepted a job. And I was still going to do the TV and radio part-time unless it became a full-time thing. And I interviewed. Jim Barker offered me the job across the desk. And I went home and I just said to Gino, hey, what do you think? And she just kind of looked at me like this and said, you're a coach. And she knew it. So credit to her for pushing me into that way. Everybody else always said that, but I was ready to try something else and try to perfect that or be the best that I could be at that. And so she did push me into that.
I also think of the three girls there. They're all athletes too.
Yeah.
And now, was that something because of the two of you?
We never really pushed it on any of them, to be honest with you. Now, what happens is there's things like PE classes and things, and you hear things, and so yeah, Kiana really wanted to continue it, and we coach. See, that's my thing. Basketball is my passion, right? We might have coached a couple of provincial championships and things like that, and that was as a defensive back coach and as a coordinator, I was able to do that more in the off season,
right?
And so we did a lot of basketball coaching, and I ran basketball camps at Western Washington, and I refereed my way through college and did that in university. So they're pretty naturally athletic, but we didn't really push it. I mean, the other thing is they're extremely artsy. They can pick up instruments and play them, drums, flutes, clarinets. Gina can play the guitar. I tried to do that one time. That's a little side note. It wasn't very fun. COVID grabbed myself a guitar. Oh. Yeah. Mike Filer tried to help me. Oh. Sent me some CDs. I could strum. I can't play.
What, Leonard Skinner?
Baby steps. I'm just throwing it out there to show another side of me here.
Okay.
All right. Pretty good woodworker too, by the way. Yeah, they love to play, but they love other things too. Mm-hmm. They love a lot of other things outside of anything athletic and sports. So just extremely proud of them as people.
So there's the assistant coaching days with the Argonauts, the assistant coaching days with the Tiger Cats. You leave and go to Fresno State for a year.
Yeah.
But then you come back under, the likes of, I guess, June Jones and Ken Austin were running the organization at the time. And then you become a head coach.
Yeah.
You become a head coach and you have this immediate success. You end up being coach of the year. Did it just seem so easy?
Well, I can just say that, things happen in life. I got to give Jeff Tedford a ton of credit also for this. We went down there and turned a program around in a year from double-digit losses to double-digit wins. We had a top 15 defense, and I really learned another way to turn a program around, and from a lifer that believed in certain things. And we'll have to do another episode on just the coaching part. But when I had an opportunity to come up with lifers like June Jones, Jerry Glanville, and learn from them and see a way, it was just an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. Plus, I always had a desire to work on the offensive side of the ball to help me be better.
Right.
All I did was study offense for 20 years, And now I had a chance to actually not get a clinic talk, but actually submerge myself. So the opportunity to learn from those guys, being a receivers coach, it just seemed like sometimes life's about timing,
right,
or maybe all of it is. And I just had to seize that moment and that opportunity. And I didn't know. I mean, I'm telling, the first thing that I didn't have, Bubs, when I started off, is I didn't have head coaching experience. So if you look at how I assembled that first staff, I surrounded myself with experience. But at the same time, I was able to sit right where the players sat. I could always look them in the eye and say, I've been there. I've been exactly where you're at. I understand how your legs feel. I understand when you feel like you're being wronged. I understand wanting playing time, being in the practice roster, what we referred to as the waiting room. And I just, that was what I brought that other coaches couldn't bring. They didn't play 12 years. So it was a nice mix there. And then it was, okay, sure, coaching is just a piece of it, but what do you stand for daily behind the scenes? The 3 hours that you see on game day is great. Oh, he made this call. He didn't make that call. How can we do this? Oh, he seems aggressive. Oh, I like his sideline demeanor. All that gets critique, but it's everything behind the scenes that lead up to the game day preparation. And it was very interesting because after I got the job and it was just these fluorescent lights, and I thought, oh man, here we go. What are we doing? And now everything crosses your desk. One bus or two. Do you want to eat? Do you not want to eat? How do you want to do this? What about training camp? When do you want the coaches in? And you're like, whoa, there's no prep for that. You do it. And so I did feel prepared, overly prepared in some aspects, and some things there's just no way. And then you don't know how it feels after a loss.
Right.
Yeah, you feel for your coach as a coordinator, as a position coach, but then it's on you and the media right after. Hey, what about this? What about that? Not just the loss, but why'd you do this? Yes, you're in that boat. You're in that boat. And you have to learn to get used to it. And you have to stand for something. And because you're on stage every day in front of your team, in front of the organization, you're representative of it, a city that wants to win, but then you can't appease everybody. No matter what, somebody's going to not agree with you, and you have to stand for something. And that's what I learned. And so when I sat in a room with June Jones and all these other coaches and Robin Ross with 40 years of coaching experience and Jeff Reinbold, and I said, hey, this is what it's going to be. I'm sure they were like, oh boy, here's this young whippersnapper. I've heard these ones before, And all I asked them to do was, wherever they've been, nobody's been undefeated. There's lots of ways to do things. I'm going to lean on you for some things, but this is the way we're going to do it. And the thing is, before I hired them, they already knew all that stuff. But when you get everybody together and you kind of say, this is what it's going to be, I'm going to be extremely flexible in a lot of areas, but these are kind of the non-negotiables. This is what we stand for. To their credit, they bought in. They were the first buy-in. And I'm leading all up to the success, if you will. Still not sure what that means. But the high-achieving team in 19, the buy-in started with the staff in the organization. And, everybody from the personnel department, they said, okay, we'll rally. We'll see this through. And it's got to be the one thing that I think people get. It's easy to follow a chain of command and a hierarchy. That's easy. And it's withstood the test of time. However, when you can get people to willingly, that's the word I feel like people leave out. When they willingly follow, I think you've got a great opportunity. And these people willingly followed and were willing to try something new in some aspects. And so now when the team came, we were bonded. Organizationally, internally, we were bonded. So we were robbing the same train. We were singing the same song. And when they came in, they felt it. They didn't hear it or just see it. They felt it. And so they bought in. And then we had talent and those type of things. And then you add the X's and O's. Then you get to the game day and you have the undefeated home record. You have
franchise record, 15 wins.
15 wins. The big one eluded us. We don't run from that. But at the same time, the joy that we brought when people left the stadium 10 times, that we're like, hey, that team, that's what it is. That's the pride and tradition of Ticat football, of Hamilton Tiger Cat football, is special and it not to be taken lightly. So many things went into when I went up there as the coach of the year. That's why I spoke the way I spoke, because that was exactly how it happened, authentically.
And it's funny that you bring up the big one. And you're right. Covering the team from a media aspect and just watching the wins and the way you would pull out wins. And then the quarterback goes down, and then another guy that we've never heard of comes in there and just continues things. Dane, Masoli, the questions, who are you going to play? But every screw you turned was right. It seemed to be correct. Every decision that you made, every gamble you made on third down, everything's going right. And it's all ending up in victories. I'm with you as a media member in Calgary in the Grey Cup, and I'm talking to other media members, and of course there's a conversation, and are they going to win? Is your team going to win? And of course it becomes all of a sudden I'm the Hamilton media guy.
Yeah.
And guys like Steve Milton, and you can't help it because the rest of the guys from the country are asking you because you know a little bit more, you've seen a little bit more, and I'm saying to people I can't see them losing. Right. So I was confident. I was actually, when you guys stormed out of the locker room at McMahon Stadium to hit the field, I was right there.
Nice.
And I could feel the energy.
Yeah.
I'm a media member, but I felt like a part of the team. I was so pumped up.
Right.
Anyway, so I go upstairs and watch a game, and of course the game goes nowhere like we expected it to.
Yep.
The hardest thing I've been doing sports television for over 30 years now.
Okay.
The hardest thing I have ever done in my career was asking you guys questions in the locker room at McMahon Stadium after a Grey Cup loss.
Yeah.
The tears, the disappointment, the shock, the bewilderment. I think Aaron Govashili was the guy running the media at the time.
Yeah.
I think we hugged.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of disappointment. And we're talking about the Bills there and Tyler Bass. What does that kind of disappointment do, for character?
I think for each person it's probably a little bit different. And it's funny when you're saying that, I'm seeing visuals of McMahon Stadium. And I remember I think I might have been doing TSN or something after the game, but I don't even remember what I was saying here because all I saw was Bob Young over here and him standing there. And boy, I don't like letting people down, let alone a city. And you mentioned your hug with Gogo. That's all I could do to Bob. I didn't have any words for him. I just went over to Bob and I hugged him. And that's a vivid memory, right? And it's, from as a player or whatever, you're used to coming through and you prepare for that and your mind doesn't enter anyway. However, this is sport and it's a zero-sum game and there's always a winner and a loser. And, I know you're speaking to how does it build character? I think sometimes it's over time. Sometimes, people reflect over, let's reflect over the 5 years I was the head coach or the DC. And sometimes it takes a year or two to reflect, to really understand what it is, right? People want the answer right then in a press conference or in a season ending thing. And you're just getting that moment in time. You may not be getting the truth. Some of the best things are going to be reflected over time.
Sure.
Or reflected upon over time. So I can't speak for everybody else. I can just say that in the beginning, I know some people give you the saying, oh, it made me super hungry for the next year. No, every year is different, and you don't know when you're going to be back. I was in, I think, 4 straight East finals as a player. In Toronto, and we came through one time, and that's just what it is. And I don't know, I still can't tell you if it made me stronger, if it made me work harder or whatever. I just enjoyed thinking O'Shea's probably working out. I better go work out. Or nobody's going to outwork me. That's what I could control. I'm not getting outworked. People can run faster and jump higher and have all these other things, but you're not going to outwork me. And then I'm going to work smarter than you. So while you're working harder, I'm working smarter, and we're going to get to the same spot. And it's those type of things that it does. And that's kind of my reflection afterwards is, okay, this team will never be the same. Coaching staff, personnel, players, it won't be the same.
That's the hard part.
It is hard. It is hard. And, I think that's, let me go down this rabbit hole just for a second. It's like in football, the team that won the Grey Cup this past year was 11-7. There's 30 wins between Winnipeg and Toronto. And they didn't win. Now, in every other sport, most other sports, I shouldn't say every, but the majority of them, you're going to play 4 out of 7, 3 out of 5, 2 out of 3, whatever it looks like. Major League Baseball for a long time was division winners, right?
That's right.
162 games. Imagine finishing 2 games away from first and you're done. Well, that's why I love the wild card, because if I finish within 5 games after playing 162, I'm probably almost as good as you.
Probably.
Now, it depends how you view it, but I believe I'm in that conversation. So play your way in. So all I'm saying is football's not like that. Do the Dolphins beat the Chiefs on dry turf? We'll never know. But I'm just saying, if they played 3 out of 5, if you played in a warm weather environment, a cold weather, and then you went to a neutral site, football's not like that. You just have to be better on that day. Does anybody expect 9 turnovers in an East final? No, because there was no signs of that. But there's one champion. So you don't take away from anybody that's the champion. That's the beauty of the CFL is there's been a lot of Grey Cup champions at 8-10, 11-7. Being the best in the regular season that's all it is. And so, maybe there's a day in football where it's 2 out of 3. You play.
Well, they used to have that crazy 2-game total point madness back in the early 80s, but I don't know about that. But
yeah, well, maybe it's a home and away in a neutral site for the champs. I'm just saying, in football, you're not afforded. It's right then, right. And on that day, Winnipeg was better, and fortunately, I've been on some Grey Cup champion teams where we were better. In 2012, when I was coaching with the Toronto Argonauts, we were 9-9. And I think we lost 5 of 6 in the middle of the year.
Doomsday.
But at the end of it, the 100th Grey Cup champion are the Toronto Argonauts. So that's the beauty of the CFL and the league. The disappointment never leaves. But if you can't take the journey, if you're defined by the scoreboard, you got to find a new profession. Yeah, that's maybe how you get extensions and stuff, but that has nothing to do with the person and what you believe and your standards that you're upholding from the inside out, because otherwise you're too high and too low. There has not been an undefeated team, so that means you're probably going to lose.
Right.
And guess what? Nobody's going to like it. The city, the owners, everybody, nobody's going to like it. How do you deal with adversity? I think that's the key.
So let's fast forward to modern day where we are right now. And I don't know how I'm going to, at least as a media person, not call you Coach O, because you're not the coach anymore. You're the president. You're the president of football operations. And boy, that's got a nice little ring to it. A lot of what we've talked about right now is about you coaching and you leading men and preparing men and getting them ready for the game day and the game day experience, and dealing with the media. This is going to be a different task for you. Are you going to be able to, obviously you're going to be able to do it, but is this going to be a real hard transition for you?
We'll see. Let's do this show this time next year.
Right.
I'm excited, honestly, because it's a new challenge. It's no different from moving from corner to halfback to free safety. I'm going to be the best at what I do. I'm going to be the best assistant head coach to June Jones I could be. I'm going to be the best DB coach for Scott Milanovich. I was going to be the best defensive coordinator for Kent Austin. I was going to be the best defensive coordinator for Jeff Tedford. And I'm going to be the best at this. There's no trophy for the best GM, for the best president of football operations. There's no Anna Stuckus award. But I want Scott Milanovich to be the coach of the year. That's what I'm looking at. So I have a new team, and that is the video coordinator, the therapy department. They're going to raise their level, and we're going to pick it up. And I just happen to be a guy who can coach, and I've done a decent job of it. So maybe I'm throwing deep balls to the DBs as a president. I'm not going to be a glass ceiling guy. I'm going to be present. I'm going to be available. I'm going to be there for all of that. But I'm also going to, behind the scenes, get everything else and be able to give undivided attention to things other than coaching. Because when you're coaching, you got to prep the meeting, run the meeting, do the media, do those things. It's now, how can I help Scott Milanovich in his second time around make this thing happen and be Grey Cup champions in 2024? Ed Hervey in his third rung, how can he get back to hosting or hoisting a Grey Cup? I want Ed to be the best that he can be. Drew Almain, Spencer Zimmerman, Spencer Bohm, all these people. Like, I have a new team. So that's what I am. I'm a leader of people. And the title doesn't matter. I'm being empowered, and I'm not taking it lightly, and I'm fired up, as you could tell. Like, that's what gets me going. And I'm not. My office is right next to Scott's. We want to talk some ball. Let's talk some ball. I'm gonna have that experience as a president, right? But like I said, there's no titles on the door. Anybody can walk through. They're gonna see, and that's what it's about. So those guys are gonna see me as their head coach,
right?
And I'm excited about it. Will I miss the field? I bet you I will. I might have to have some headsets on game day. We haven't. I'll do whatever it is that Scott and Ed need me to do. I really am. I want to be a service to them. At the same time, I think I have a lot to offer because my attention was divided before, and now it's undivided. And so I'm excited at the new structure. I'm excited for 2024. I'm excited for free agency. And, I think we've built a strong foundation there. The environment is solid. And I didn't want somebody to step in and have it be mushy.
Right.
I want to be able to put their stamp on it, springboard it, bounce ideas off me, both X's and O's, culturally, environmentally. And then let's see what happens.
Well, Coach,
see?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Because you are a leader of men. I've talked to enough players.
And women.
And women as well.
And women. Well, I'm a leader.
Are you a leader of your household? Those 4 ladies.
Well,
those 4 ladies.
I'm a leader of people. How about that?
A leader of people would say. And I think that's going to carry you a long way in your new role. And I'm certainly looking forward to maybe even seeing you a little bit more, not so because you're always focused on the field, and especially when we do stuff with the Tiger Cats Audio Network as well, too. But before we go, there's one other question. And we've popped up on the podcast some what we call fun facts about individuals. So let me end on this. And I've been told by a secret source that you have a fascination with the vacuum. You like to vacuum a lot.
Okay.
What is that? What you like to vacuum? A lot of people don't like to vacuum. Apparently you do.
Do I like to vacuum? I like things clean, neat. I want offices kept like we want to be Grey Cup champions. Here's the way I look at it. I'll tell you where. So I could see where the perception and the optics would think, but here's where it is. It's kind of my leadership way, and that nothing's beneath me. So for example, I might see a coffee stain that's spilt, and I see people walking, stepping over it. Even though the carpet cleaners may be coming on Friday, if it's Monday, I'm going to get the Bissell out, and I'm going to get that coffee stain
The Bissell, he even knows the name.
Oh, now, yeah, there's other sides. Like, I'm not just a coach now, that's the title. I'll sweep, I'll vacuum, I'll straighten up, I'll hang pictures, and you can ask. And so do some more deep dive.
I heard about this.
So I'll do whatever I expect other people to do. I'll model that. I'll do that, and it's not beneath me. That's what it requires. And so, if somebody happened to come around the corner and saw me sweeping, or on my hands and knees getting a coffee stain up, or I might walk in their office and get it, then if they saw it from there, they'd say, "This guy must like to vacuum or carpet clean." So, I like to do things the quote unquote right way and model what it is that I expect from others.
Always setting the good example sounds like a good president to me.
All right.
Coach O.
I appreciate you. Thanks for your time, man. I look forward to the next one.
Absolutely appreciate you coming on in the Sportsline Podcast, folks. Hey, if you have a sports idea or a story with a local twist, folks, I certainly want to hear from you. Now, if your local team deserves some recognition, you have an athlete that deserves a platform, or you just have a sports opinion to share with me, the Sportsline Podcast wants you. Contact us at many of the CHCH social media platforms. Please subscribe to the Sportsline Podcast on TikTok, YouTube, and hit that thumbs up or 5-star button so you always get the latest edition. For the outstanding hands and minds that make this production possible, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you tomorrow.